The knock came at 3:17 p.m. 3 sharp raps that didn't sound like a neighbor or a delivery. Julia froze, coffee mug halfway to her lips. Through the peephole, two men in dark suits stood waiting. One held a badge, the other carried a folder thick enough to make her heart race. When she opened the door, the taller one spoke first. "Mrs. Callahan, we're with the FBI. We need to ask you a few questions." Her stomach dropped. "Is this about my husband?" she asked before she could stop herself. The agent's expression didn't change. "We should talk inside." The next hour unfolded like a dream she couldn't wake from. They asked about her husband. Daniel, his business trips, his contacts, his late nights. Julia answered as best she could, her hands trembling. "What's going on? Did something happen to him?" she finally asked. The younger agent exchanged a look with his partner. "Mrs. Callahan, how long have you been married?" "9 years, she said. "Why?" He nodded slowly. "Because according to our records, your husband has been living under a different identity for at least 12. The words didn't register at first. Julia laughed nervously. "That's impossible." But the agent opened his folder, revealing photographs Daniel at airports, Daniel meeting strangers, Daniel with a woman Julia had never seen. "We believe your husband has been involved in federal fraud, possibly espionage." The room tilted. The coffee mug slipped from her hands and shattered. Her husband's smile flashed in her mind, the one he'd given her every morning before work. Now it felt like a mask. "We're going to need your cooperation," the agent said. Julia whispered, "I don't even know who I married." But deep down, she feared the truth maybe she'd never really wanted to know. Julia sat at the kitchen table long after the agents had left, staring at the stack of papers they'd given her. Her hands shook as she flipped through them: photos, bank statements, and names she didn't recognize. Daniel Callahan wasn't Daniel Callahan. According to the FBI, he was Daniel Kovacs, an alias linked to offshore accounts, encrypted communications, and a company that didn't officially exist. Every word felt like a knife turning in her chest. Her phone buzzed her sister, Megan. "Jules, are you okay? I just saw something on the news, FBI raids downtown." Julia's throat tightened. "It's about Daniel." Silence. Then, softly, "What did he do?" Julia didn't know how to answer. How could she explain that the man who made her coffee every morning might have been working against his own country? Later that night, she went into Daniel's study, a room she'd rarely entered. Inside, everything looked ordinary. Books, receipts, a framed photo of them smiling at the beach. But behind the bookshelf, she noticed something, a hidden latch. Her breath caught. She pressed it, and the panel clicked open, revealing a small safe embedded in the wall. She'd never seen it before. Kneeling, she ran her fingers along the cold metal. She didn't know the code, but next to it was a note, written in Daniel's handwriting. Asterisk, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. Don't trust anyone. Asterisk, Julia's pulse pounded in her ears. Don't trust anyone. Who did that include? The FBI herself. As the wind rattled the window, one thing became clear. Her husband wasn't just hiding secrets, he was hiding from someone. Julia couldn't sleep. The note burned in her mind. Asterisk, don't trust anyone. Asterisk. Those words weren't just a warning. They were a confession. She stared at the safe again, debating whether to call the FBI or try to open it herself. Curiosity won. Daniel had always used numbers tied to their life together, birthdays, anniversaries, dates that now felt like lies. She tried their wedding date, nothing. Then her birth date click. The lock released with a quiet hiss. Inside were stacks of cash, 2 passports, and a flash drive. One passport had Daniel's face, but a different name. The other her photo. Her heart stopped. The name on it wasn't Julia Callahan, it was Julia Monroe. What the hell? She whispered. Her hands shook as she plugged the flash drive into her laptop. Dozens of encrypted files appeared. One folder, however, was open. Inside was a single video file labeled asterisk for Julia. Asterisk, she clicked it. Daniel's face filled the screen, older, tired, eyes heavy. If you're watching this, he began, then they found me. And soon, they'll come for you. Everything you know about me and about yourself isn't real. I tried to protect you, but it's too late. Julia covered her mouth. Protect me. From what? On the screen, Daniel hesitated. The FBI isn't what you think. Don't trust them, Julia. Don't trust anyone. The screen went black. Then her phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. Asterisk, we need to talk. Before they do, asterisk, her blood turned to ice. Someone was watching her. And if Daniel was right, the danger wasn't over, it was only beginning. Julia's heart hammered as she stared at the message on her phone. Asterisk, we need to talk. Before they do, asterisk, she glanced around her apartment. The shadows suddenly feeling alive. The text came from an unknown number, no name, no context. She typed back, asterisk, who is this? Asterisk, the reply came instantly. Asterisk, someone who knows why the FBI was really at your door. Asterisk. Her instincts screamed to ignore it, but curiosity won again. Then tell me, she wrote. Asterisk, not here. Asterisk, came the answer. Asterisk, tomorrow, 10 a.m. Lincoln Park bench, by the fountain. Come alone. Asterisk, Julia stared at the screen for a long time, weighing fear against truth. Sleep was impossible. Every noise made her flinch. At dawn, she left her apartment. The note from Daniel tucked into her pocket like a charm and a curse. When she reached the park, it was nearly empty. Morning fog curling through the trees. A man in a gray coat sat on the bench, reading a newspaper. As she approached, he said without looking up, "You shouldn't have opened the safe." Her pulse spiked. "Who are you?" He folded the paper. "A friend of your husband. At least, I was before he disappeared." Disappeared? Julia repeated. "You mean arrested?" The man shook his head. "No, they took him off the grid before he could talk." Julia frowned. "Who's they?" He leaned closer. "The same people who came to your door." Her throat went dry. "The FBI." The man smiled faintly. "That's what they call themselves. But what they really are depends on who's paying." Julia's knees went weak. "You're saying my husband wasn't lying?" The man slid an envelope across the bench. "Open it when you get home." "But Julia, whatever you do next, don't let them know you've started to remember." "Remember what?" she asked. But the man was already gone, disappearing into the mist like a ghost. Julia rushed home with the envelope clutched in her hand, her mind spinning with questions she couldn't yet form. The park felt miles away now, replaced by the heavy silence of her apartment. She locked the door, pulled the blinds shut, and sat at the kitchen table. The envelope was unmarked, but inside were photographs, old ones. One showed a young Daniel, younger than she'd ever known him, standing beside her, but it wasn't her. It was a woman who looked almost identical. Same eyes, same smile. The back of the photo was labeled Budapest, 2008. Julia's breath caught. She had never been to Budapest. The second photo was worse. The surveillance still. Timestamped just 3 months before her wedding. It showed Daniel and that same woman entering a building labeled Consulate of Hungary. Her hands trembled. None of this made sense. She was Julia Callahan, born in Oregon, raised in Seattle. But if that was true, why did the woman in the photo look exactly like her? Her phone buzzed a text from Megan. Asterisk, are you okay? I saw men outside your building. Asterisk, Julia's blood ran cold. She ran to the window. Two dark SUVs were parked across the street. Agents or whoever they were stood near them, pretending to talk but watching her window. The warning echoed in her mind. Asterisk, don't let them know you've started to remember. Asterisk, remember what? What could she possibly have forgotten? She grabbed the photo again and turned it over, searching for anything she'd missed. And there it was, faint but visible under the ink. Another name written in pencil. Asterisk, Agent J. Monroe. Asterisk, her fake passport's name. Her husband hadn't just been living under an alias. He'd been living with someone who didn't even know she had one too. Julia's world felt like it had cracked open. Agent J. Monroe, the name from the passport, now written on the back of a photo that proved she'd lived another life. But how could that be possible? Her memories, her childhood, her wedding, her entire life felt real. Were they fabricated? Implanted? She didn't know what to believe anymore. She opened her laptop and searched the name. Asterisk Agent J. Monroe FBI. Asterisk. The results were unsettling. A classified case from 2012. Redacted reports. Mentions of a covert operation called Asterisk Project Halcyon. Asterisk most links were deleted. Archived or marked asterisk restricted access. Asterisk her hands trembled. The more she clicked, the faster her internet slowed, until the screen went black and a message appeared. Asterisk unauthorized access detected. Asterisk someone was watching her. She yanked the power cord out and sat frozen in the dark. Moments later, there was movement outside. Her window the reflection of someone standing near the door. A faint knock followed. Not 3 raps like before, but one slow, deliberate tap. Julia backed away from the door, heart hammering. Then her phone lit up. Asterisk we warned you. Julia. Asterisk it was from the same unknown number. Before she could react, her apartment lights flickered and died. The silence that followed was suffocating. She grabbed her coat, the envelope, and Daniel's note, then slipped out the back stairwell. Rain poured down as she ran through the alley, every shadow a threat. She didn't know where she was going, only that staying meant capture. By the time she reached the edge of the city, she realized something terrifying. She wasn't running from the FBI anymore. She was running from whoever had created her. Julia hid inside an abandoned motel on the edge of town, soaked, exhausted, and terrified. Every creak of the building made her flinch. She sat by the flickering neon window, staring at the envelope again. The photos, the note, the name Agent J. Monroe, it felt like a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. She needed answers, not theories. Pulling out the flash drive again, she plugged it into a cheap burner laptop she'd bought from a pawn shop. This time, she bypassed the encryption using a code she didn't remember knowing. Her fingers moved instinctively, almost automatically. Line after line of data unfolded: coordinates, mission logs, coda names. Her heart stopped when she saw one entry labeled asterisk. Subject, J. Monroe status. Memory suppression active. Asterisk. Beneath it, an attached report. Asterisk operative placed under new identity following internal breach. Objective, monitor embedded agent DeKovacs for corruption. Termination authorization pending. Asterisk Julia's breath caught. Asterisk she asterisk was the operative. Daniel hadn't deceived her, he'd been her assignment. Her own mission had been wiped from her memory. Suddenly, fragments began to surface, flashes of foreign streets. Gunfire, a voice saying, "You'll forget everything, but we'll know where to find you." She dropped the laptop, gasping. Then her phone buzzed another unknown message. Asterisk, they're coming. You need to finish what you started. Asterisk outside. Headlights cut through the rain. 3 black SUVs stopped at the motel's entrance. Agents poured out, weapons drawn. Julia grabbed the flash drive and bolted through the back door, sprinting into the storm. For the first time, she wasn't running from the truth, she was running toward it. Julia ran through the rain-soaked streets, the flash drive clutched in her hand like it held her soul. The city lights blurred as sirens wailed behind her. Every corner felt like a trap, every shadow like a hunter. She ducked into a subway station just as the trains roared in. Her reflection in the glass startled her, soaked, terrified, but unmistakably different. The look in her eyes wasn't fear anymore. It was recognition. She boarded the train and sank into a seat, catching her breath. Her mind replayed the files she'd read. Asterisk memory suppression, embedded operative, termination pending. Asterisk she was supposed to have been erased, forgotten. But something had gone wrong. Someone had let her live. She plugged the flash drive into her phone with an adapter, scrolling through more decrypted data. A folder titled Project Halcyon Termination Order. Inside was a photo of her Julia Monroe and a date set for the following week. Her death had been scheduled. Her throat tightened. The file also listed one final line. Authorization. Director M. Kovacs. Daniel. Her husband. The man she'd loved and trusted was the one who had ordered her to be erased. The realization hit harder than any bullet could. She closed her eyes, trembling. He hadn't been her protector. He'd been her handler. Her entire marriage had been part of the mission to monitor her, control her, erase her if she remembered. The train stopped. Across from her sat a woman in a dark coat, watching. Julia's pulse quickened. The woman smiled faintly and said, "You weren't supposed to wake up before Julia could move." The woman stood and walked toward the exit, slipping a note into her coat pocket as she passed. Julia unfolded it. "If you want the truth, come to where it all began." Julia stood in the middle of an empty airfield at dawn, her breath visible in the cold air. The note had led her here, the place where her life as Julia Monroe had ended and Julia Callahan had begun. The horizon glowed faintly as a small private jet sat idle, engines silent. She approached cautiously, clutching the flash drive and Daniel's note. The door of the jet opened, and out stepped the same woman from the train. "You made it," she said calmly. Julia's voice trembled. "Who are you?" "Someone who remembers what they did to you," the woman replied. "We were both part of Project Halcyon. They used us, erased us, turned us into ghosts." Julia felt her knees weaken. "Why me? Why erase me?" The woman looked at her with something almost like pity. "Because you fell in love with your target, and you tried to save him." Julia froze. Memories surged back, gunfire, sirens, Daniel bleeding in her arms. She had begged to keep him alive. "They told you it was a mission," the woman said, "but it became something else. They couldn't allow that." Julia's hands shook. "Where is he now?" The woman hesitated. "Alive, hidden, but not the man you remember." Julia's heart twisted. "Then why tell me this?" The woman stepped closer. "Because they're coming to finish what they started, and you have one chance to end it." She handed Julia a keycard. "Inside that jet is everything proof. Files, names. You can expose them all, or you can disappear again." Julia stared at the sunrise, torn between freedom and truth. Then she whispered, "No more lies." She climbed aboard the plane and inserted the flash drive into the onboard system. As the engines roared to life, her phone buzzed one last time. A message from Daniel. Run. But Julia didn't run. She hit upload. The upload bar on the plane's monitor filled slowly, every percentage ticking louder in Julia's chest. Outside, headlights cut through the fog-black SUVs racing across the airfield. The woman from the train stood by the runway, gun drawn, buying Julia seconds she didn't have. Alarms blared as agents poured out, shouting orders. Julia's fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Almost there," she whispered. 92%, 97. The cabin door burst open. "Hands where we can see them." She turned. It was Daniel, older, angrier, but still him. "Julia, please," he said, lowering his gun. "You don't know what you're doing." Tears blurred her vision. "You erased me, Daniel." He shook his head. "To save you. You were never meant to wake up. They'll kill you for this. Then let them," she said, voice steady. The bar hit 100%. The upload complete. Across the world, every encrypted file, every secret operation, every erased life went public. Daniel's eyes widened. "What did you do?" "I remembered," she whispered. Outside, chaos erupted. Sirens, helicopters, the sound of a world cracking open. Julia reached for the pilot's controls as Daniel stepped closer. "You just ended everything," he said. She met his gaze, calm and unbroken. "No," she said, "I just started it again." She pushed the throttle forward, and the jet roared down the runway, vanishing into the rising sun. For the first time in years, Julia Monroe wasn't running from the truth. She was finally free to live it. Sometimes the truth doesn't save you, it changes you. Julia's story reminds us that even when the world erases your name, your choices can still rewrite everything. She was meant to disappear, but instead, she became the reason others woke up. If this story kept you on edge, don't forget to hit that like button. Share it with someone who loves mystery and courage. And subscribe for more powerful stories that prove one thing: silence can be the loudest form of revenge.